All right, let me show you something real quick. Whenever people talk about suspension, it usually turns into a debate. Coilovers or airbags? Performance or practicality? And most conversations stop right there. But I kept asking myself a different question. Why not both? Why not have the performance of coilovers, but the control and practicality of airbags when you need it? That question is what eventually led me to Aircups. In this video, I'm gonna share why I went with coilovers paired with Aircups, what the install was actually like, and what I've learned after living with them for 2 years. Some of the lessons surprised me, and one of them completely changed how I plan to install. If you're seriously considering Aircups for your build, then this video should help you understand what you're really getting into. Let's jump into it. Before getting into why I chose them, let's make sure we're on the same page. An air cup is a pneumatic cup that sits on top of your coilover spring. When pressurized, it raises the vehicle approximately 2 inches. It's really great for overcoming obstacles like speed bumps, driveways, and rough roads. You can drive with the system pressurized for short distances, but it's not designed to drive like that all the time, and the recommended max speed is about 40 miles an hour. It's about clearance on demand, and that distinction becomes really important later, especially during the install. I really wanted my car to feel sharp, connected, and predictable. I didn't want to trade performance just to gain convenience. And I'm also running a fiberglass bumper, which doesn't forgive mistakes. Being fully static in situations like that can get stressful fast. Aircups gave me the ability to raise my vehicle 2 inches, so driving becomes a lot less stressful. So here's what it's actually like living with the system. First, the noise. When you air up or air down the air cups, they usually make noise, and that's normal. Over time, dirt and debris can build up and the noise can become a little more noticeable. The fix is actually quite simple. Just wash the air cups with water and that should quiet down the noise considerably. Now the part I wish I understood earlier, the air tank. Now if you're running a steel air tank, it is going to collect moisture and moisture turns into rust, so you have to vent the system periodically. I do it about once, twice, 3 times a month. And in my opinion, this is non-negotiable. You do have to do this. And if you don't, it really is going to compromise your whole system. That's why an electronic purge valve is a must-have. Manual drain valves are hard to reach and they're really messy. And if you install it in an area that has carpeting or anything like that, if you purge it, it's going to just vent rusty air out all over and just mess up your whole interior or wherever you have your tank mounted. The way I have my system set up is I have an electronic purge valve with a line that runs underneath the car. So every time I purge it, it just vents that rusty air down to the bottom of the car. And yeah, it sounds pretty cool too. Now you can upgrade your steel tank to an aluminum tank, which doesn't rust, but you still do need to vent the moisture. Now the electronic purge valve was a single decision that made ownership a lot more easier and fun. Here's the part that most people don't tell you. The air cup itself adds 20 to 30 millimeters of height. That means you have to compensate by lowering the spring on the shock body by the same amount. If you don't have that extra thread on your shock body because maybe your car is super low already, you are gonna need shorter springs. In my case, I'm running relatively soft springs. I run 5Ks in the front and 7Ks in the rear. Now for me, I didn't have enough threads to lower my spring by 30 millimeters. So I ended up lowering it as much as I could. And then I removed one of the locking rings and gained an extra, 5 to 6, 7 millimeters. And that was enough for me without changing my spring rates. You can try that, but I don't recommend it. For some reason, my top hats wouldn't work, but I was able to order some 808 top hats from Bob and they worked really well and they're really high quality. So if you're looking for some new top hats, I would definitely recommend checking them out. Before jumping into the install, there's a few things I recommend buying first. An electronic purge solenoid, a 3-position toggle switch, a 90-degree elbow fitting, braided wire sleeves, and a few other miscellaneous things that I'll link below in the description. Now let's talk about the install itself. I would rate this difficulty as moderate. What really helped when tackling this install was to break it into sections. The first section would be installing the air cups on the coilovers. Then installing the air tank, compressor, valves, and also the air lines. And third would be the wiring for the whole system. When you approach it that way, it makes it a little bit easier to manage. Now, I'm not doing a step-by-step tutorial here. There's a great video I followed that has a lot more details, and I'll link that below so you can watch that also. Now, first, First, before I installed the tank, I did mount the electronic purge valve onto the tank. From there, I ran a line from the purge valve down to the bottom of the car. Because I have a V-shaped design in my frunk, I ended up using 2 pieces of sheet aluminum, and I mounted the tank onto those, and then I mounted the sheet metal onto V shape of the trunk. I mounted the compressor and the air valves towards the driver's side of the frunk. I did use a rivet nut tool, which if you don't have this already in your toolbox, it's a great tool and has many uses. Let's talk about the wiring. The wiring side of this whole system was a lot less intimidating than I expected. The kit comes with a wiring diagram that's really easy to follow and gave me a lot of confidence when installing the system. I followed the wiring diagram and tested everything to make sure it was working, and then I cleaned it up with heat shrink and the braided sleeves. If you decide to run an electronic purge solenoid, you do need to wire up the 3-pin connector correctly. I used the wiring diagram from Chris Slum and modified it slightly for my setup. I've also linked the video below. It's a great resource to have. Here's the benefit I didn't expect. Driving the car is much less stressful now and much more enjoyable. I can enjoy driving the car now without constantly worrying about shattering my front bumper. It also made working on the car a lot easier. Before the Aircups, I would have to drive my car onto a block of wood just so I could jack up the car. Now, with a press of a button, I get that 2-inch lift and I can slide a jack in easily, and it's really improved the quality of life when interacting with my vehicle. Before ordering the Aircups, make sure to double check and measure the thickest part of your dampering shaft. I'm running Fortune Auto 500 series coilovers, and the diameter of the shaft is 20 millimeters. Aircups come in 2 different sizes, the 110 millimeters and 120 millimeter sizing. If you're running wide wheels and tires, definitely request the 110 millimeter size Aircups, because by default they might send you the 120 millimeters, and that's an additional 10 millimeters that you can save. That one detail alone will save you a lot of frustration. When I bought my Aircup setup, it was about $1,200. At that point, I had already been running my coilovers for about 4 years. And that's one of the things I like most about this system, that it's buildable, it's expandable. You can first save up and buy yourselves a nice set of coilovers, enjoy them, drive the car around, get some experience, and then later on save up money and you can order the Aircup system and install them later. What else is really cool is that you can even expand the system with different fittings and air tools if you want. Aircups aren't for everyone. They're not meant to replace full airbags, and they're not strictly a full static setup either. But if you want the coilover performance with the ability to raise the car when you need it, and you're okay with planning ahead and doing some basic maintenance, Aircups make living with your car a lot easier. If this video helped you out, consider subscribing, drop a comment if you're thinking about getting Aircups for your ride, and support the channel by using the links below. I think there's a hype button down there. You could help the channel by hitting that. And as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one.